I heard you had a dream. What did it tell you?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Neuro Visionary Podcast. I'm your host, Sophia Sunshine. I want to take a moment to share why it is that I'm here doing this podcast. I believe the last 5 years have been pretty unusual for most of us. A lot of life changes. I personally chose to move from one state to another. Obviously, relocating, you're starting your life all over again. And in that process, like a lot of major transitions, I was confronted with the fact that I didn't know who I was anymore. And not just on, like, oh, I don't know what job to go get, or I don't know what I want to do, but in a disabling way. Now, mind you, I also have spent most of my life battling Lyme disease and chronic illness, heavy metal poisoning, mold poisoning, like this ridiculous gamut of things. But I've also been a very hard worker. I spent 20 years as a professional artist, a teacher. I have traveled around the world. I mean, I've done so many things with my life. And the thing about that is that in many ways, the greatest things that I've done have always been in odds to something that I couldn't see that was actually causing struggles. And so I've always been a fighter. I've always been someone who worked really hard and made an effort. As my husband likes to say, he's like, well, you're kind of an all or nothing kind of gal. If I decide to do something, I go full in. What I'm saying is that I got to a point where I was trying to recreate my life and I had all these opportunities, and all the things I used to do so easily and I was quite good at weren't working anymore. I was exhausted. I was stressed out. And then on top of it, I was actually in a really bad situation with long COVID and being disabled, having horrible pain. Doctors couldn't help me. So I was in a pretty existential crisis. And this event happened on one of our moves where I had a complete meltdown. And in the process of having that meltdown, afterwards, I was in a state of shock. And mind you, we are still needing to finish our move. We were only one day into a 3-day drive. But in the shock wave of that moment, I heard a voice. And the voice told me that I needed to look up late diagnosed autism in women. And I was like, what the hell? And then I heard it again. And I've got a woo side to me, and I've definitely, as you get to know me, you're going to find out I work with a lot of unseen energies, but I don't, the only time I really hear a voice has been when my life is about to get completely turned upside down. So I followed its instructions. And all of a sudden, I was watching these videos, listening to stories about women, and their experiences matched mine. And mind you, I'm in my mid-40s and I have done my work. And so there was a bit of an abyss. Like, what does this even mean? After about a year of not really knowing what to do, it's like, what do you do? Well, it's not like you're going to understand what that means or if it's true. Or my unconscious decided to push me, and it pushed me towards going back to school. So I found myself enrolled in a master's program. But the special thing about it was that it was an individualized program where I could design all my curriculum. And being an artist and wanting to study Carl Jung and psychology, that seemed perfect. And at the same time, I was guided to enroll at a dream tending school, and I started learning how to work with dreams. And I'll tell you, holy crap, my unconscious knows what the heck it's doing if I can just get out of my own way. So I've spent the last 2 years unmasking. I was officially diagnosed both with autism and ADHD in my mid to late 40s, and I decided to create my degree around unmasking using dreams, art, and memoir. So here I am. And I have to tell you that I was in such a deep, disabled place of disrepair. I mean, I wasn't living. I didn't know what to do with myself. I had so many health and medical problems. I was distressed, depressed, anxious, and a lot has changed, but my health has finally really turning around. And along with that is my motivation, my inspiration, my spirit, my mind. And this has been one of the most amazing pieces of my life. And mind you, I do like to keep it interesting. Once you get to know me, you'll find I go on adventures. That's what I live for. So this has been an adventure. And this podcast is not only a way for me to integrate what I have discovered, but it's also a way for me to offer something back. It's a place for me to share stories, dreams, reflections, for me to help you connect with your own dream images, your own unconscious. My plan is that we will spend time working with dreams, mine, yours. It could also include active imagination journeys or shamanic journeys or meditations or just images. And what you don't know yet about me is that I spent over 20 years as an artist and a teacher and a healer and a guide. And so the visual image and prompting or guiding others to discover that within themselves is something that not only I love, but I have spent a lot of time doing. And those other worlds, the unconscious, to me, is one of the most important and powerful voices that gets neglected on an everyday basis. And so I had the privilege of diving deep into Carl Jung and his theories. I'm still studying him through different educational resources, which has been super fascinating. He really believed in the importance of the individual, not in the sheeple, not in the person that's going to behave the way society wants them to, or religion, or family, or social constructs, or whatever. This is actually where depth psychology, or Carl Jung, or individuation intersects neurodiversity. I have felt like I did not fit in my whole life, and I have created my own worlds over and over and over. And it's amazing to start to learn about why that is. And while it's taken time and effort to actually heal and have the energy to be creative again, I feel like if neurodivergent people who are suffering, and there's all different levels, we all know that, but if they're suffering, I want to help alleviate some of that because I think there are tremendous gifts hiding amidst the neurodiversity. And I want to see those gifts change the world more than it already has. That's the funny thing is if you decide to go on this journey with me, then you'll probably start reading different texts that I recommend and start to learn about the evolution and of the field and the things they're discovering, because it's so much more than just a group of people who are getting an ADHD diagnosis or a autism diagnosis, and mind you, the spectrum is inclusive of all different neurodiversities, which includes dementia and Alzheimer's and schizophrenia and bipolar. And these titles, right? The titles that the Western psychology world has prescribed to these differences, especially pathologizing them or calling them disorders, is another thing that is going to have to change. And I hope to contribute to that, because while they want to look at things like, oh, there's a line and these people who aren't neurotypical are falling on a different place on the line depending on their neurological differences, I think that the reality is that humanity is a circle. And unless every person on this planet has a brain scan, you're not going to understand the complexity unless you start to back up and get curious about, well, what does it look like if people can actually decide what's right for them in ways that maybe we haven't considered? I'm here to learn because I learn by talking. My husband can vouch for that. Yes, I am a didactic learner, but I'm also here to put neurodivergent perspectives out into the world to support those of you that are curious about your own status or differences, even if you don't have a label or don't need a label, but there's a part of you that feels unexpressed. And that's the point where individuation or listening or connecting with our unconscious is so important, so that you can be living in alignment with who you're really meant to be. I think that's about it. This is a very short intro. I don't want to contaminate it with a lot more information, but what you can expect to find here is that I will be sharing dreams, and my hope is that the relevance of the images and the symbols that we discuss will help you consider not only your own dreams, but how these symbols are portals for you into your own unconscious and into your waking life, for you to ask questions of yourself. And you'll understand when you listen to a dream episode. The other thing is, I'd like to provide space for you to connect with yourself in a deeply somatic way. That's going to come out in a variety of fashions. It may come in a guided visualization. It may come in sound tracks. It may come in visual prompts, journal prompts. I'm going to just be creative here, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for joining me at the Neuro Visionary podcast, and I'm your host, Sophia Sunshine.
I heard you had a dream. What did it tell you?